All right, everybody, 4 o'clock on the dot. I'm 10 Tampa Bay Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins. That's Meteorologist James Hopkins. Good afternoon. We are talking tropics today. Something to talk about. They definitely woke up over the weekend. We do have a few waves that we're watching. Nothing threatening Tampa at this particular time at all. That's the good news. I do think, and James, we were just looking at some of the ensemble data, that really the next probably 2 to 3 weeks. Going to have something out there that we're kind of keeping an eye on throughout the whole time.
Yeah, this is the time of year, of course, everything starts to wake up, especially in that main development region. Of course, early in the season, we got the Gulf, we've got the southeast coast where we typically see those early season storms, with things getting woke up. We're looking at those waves coming off the coast of Africa. And this is actually something we talked about earlier with our coverage earlier in the day today. It's all about the positioning of that high pressure, because whether you have a storm or not, we're always watching what is steering these storms on whether they're going to come to our area or not. But yeah, we've got Dexter, which Dexter's luckily not going to do much, but we've got one that could potentially be right behind it. That's the one, actually, Bobby, we're going to get a few impacts off of, and of course we're going to get the one that comes off the coast of Africa. But we've talked about how dry it's been lately. The one that you see there, the 10 and the 40, that is the one that's actually going to do us some good. We definitely need some. We don't need a tropical system, but that's the good news. It's going to help increase our rain chances as we go towards the weekend.
You know, and yesterday it was drifting off towards the north and the west right here into the Carolinas. Today, it's actually doing the opposite. It's actually going off the coast of the Carolinas, and we would get moisture from another low trying to form and come up into the eastern Gulf. All right, so that would actually increase our rain chances. We'll have to wait and see. It's a complete flip-flop. Not complete, but it's a big movement in the forecast model from what we looked at yesterday to what we see today. So James is talking about that high pressure and where it is. Look at this map. So this is Dexter. Dexter's going up and out. Dexter's actually going up on the top of the ridge, which is sitting right here. Okay, the ridge kind of goes something like this and like that, okay? And that's the high pressure. And storms will not go into it like that. All right, they just don't, that's not how it works. However, why would we think that this is going to do this? And that is, like James said, that is because that's where we think the ridge will break down over the next week or so. And so what the ridge will eventually look like is something like this, which allows things to come up and out, okay? Even this one would do something like this, all right? And that to us here, because the devil's in the details, and we're not gonna know exact locations and storms and all that stuff this far out in time. But that right there, we can watch that model run. And because it's such a big weather phenomenon, it's easier to say, okay, even if it's off by a little bit, that's not going to be that big of a difference, right? We just see it breaking down and moving further to the east. If a hurricane is off by a little bit, it's a big difference from like it hitting Fort Myers versus Tampa, right? That's a huge difference in weather. That is such a bigger phenomenon that we think, okay, look, even if the model's off a little bit, I still think that door is opening up. So let's start with Dexter right now. Dexter, again, riding on the north side of that ridge, not really affecting many folks. Bermuda's right there where the M is in Bermuda. Halifax, Nova Scotia is right here at the top. This is a sheared storm. You can see some of the low-level rotation right in there. But you can see all the convections out to the east, northeast.
The convection was nice really yesterday and through the overnight. It was nice right around the center. But as we went through the overnight, something I noticed this morning is it really started to blow that off. And you can look at the wind shear that's in it. And it's going to go into an area with some higher wind shear, which will keep that convection blowing off. But that's really going to keep that from strengthening up even more. It's still over warm waters right now. But
just barely.
Yeah, just barely. Looks like as we go throughout the day tomorrow, it's going to move into some cooler waters, plus that wind shear is what's going to help keep it from developing even more. And it's funny because if you look at the forecast models, it actually shows the wind increasing when it turns extra tropical. And again, that's when it's going to move over the cooler waters. That's when it's going to turn back to a cold core low where it's still looking at 45 to 50 mile per hour winds. Right now it's sitting at 40. But yeah, a lot of shear.
So there's you can see where it was, right? And there's where it's sitting somewhere right in here. In fact, let me go ahead and just turn that storm on. So you can see where it is now. And in fact, look at that. It's on the backside of this really warm eddy. That is the Gulf Stream. All right, comes down, goes down around south part of Florida, over the Florida Straits, right past Key West, up past Miami, comes up the East Coast. There's the Outer Banks right there on the left side of your screen. I can do this a little bit, right? And then you can see it kind of shoots out a little bit. This has basically ridden right along that. In fact, let me put the historical track here. And you can see it was a little to the south of it, but it's all in the warm water. So the forecast for this is going to take it further off towards the north and the east, and eventually it'll get out there over cooler water. Basically anything that's not reddish here is below 80 degrees.
I think the reason why this thing is still alive with all that wind shear it's been battling is because how warm that water is. We talk about the ingredients that go into a tropical storm becoming a hurricane and these things developing. We talk about we need low wind shear, we need warm waters, we need actually moisture, which is what it picks up. So that it's hair and dust not bothering that one. What it is the warm water battling the wind shear. So while it does have some really good wind shear, that water is warm enough to kind of level it out, which is why it's not weakening, but it's also not strengthening. The warm water is enough to keep it kind of sustained even with the wind shear that it's going through right now, which it won't be able to once it gets into that cooler ocean waters, which again should be throughout the day tomorrow, kind of Wednesday afternoon into Thursday morning.
And winds are 45, 50 miles per hour. Because of that, you're not going to get a lot of swell. Wave heights should populate here in just a little bit. See if they'll come on. There they are. So you're not seeing a lot right there. Let's go out to where it currently is. And that green in there is getting a little bit on the larger side. So this wave's about 14 feet. That's right around the back side where you're seeing all that. But even down here near Bermuda, just off the coast, about 3 to 4 footers. And that's not terrible at all. Unfortunately, it's not a whole lot for surfing, but at least a little bit of swell is trying to work its way back towards the west. Here's the latest forecast track from the Hurricane Center. It's 4:36 now. We're getting off around 4:54. I think we'll probably get a little bit of an update at the 5 p.m. update before we get off here, but I don't see any big changes. It's moving to the north and the east, and you can notice winds are now at 40 miles per hour. Pressure's come up. That was 1,002 millibars this time yesterday and last night. Northeast at 12. It has slowed down a little bit, but I think that will eventually pick back up. It's going to be kind of slow the next couple of days. You can see that tonight, tomorrow morning, then Wednesday's in this time frame, and then you got Thursday morning right here. So the speed pretty much stays the same, about 12, 13, 14 miles per hour off to the north and the east. But look at the winds, 40, 45, 50, 50, 50, 45. So it does increase a little bit. There's more Coriolis effect. In this area in here, you're really just talking more like a regular North Atlantic low pressure system, okay? And the size of the storm is relatively small as well, so it will basically stay in between all those land masses and not affect anybody. So we're looking good as far as that goes. And the shear has worked out perfect too, because it's moving off in a northeasterly direction where, if it was moving to the north, it would go over to Halifax. You know what I'm saying? So it works out really well that it's not going to really affect anybody. That water temperature is warm. It's warm for everybody. Let's come back down here. Temps in the Gulf. Now this is the actual water temperature. This is not anomaly, which means warmer than average, cooler than average. But most of this area in here is about 1 to 2 degrees above average. Some of it's closer to average. That's not that far above, so we're doing okay.
And you went to the beach over the weekend. I went to St. Pete Beach over the weekend. I got in that water, and it's got to be 90, 91. Mm-hmm. It is very warm out there right now, and it's funny sitting on the beach and you go get in the water. It actually heated me up. It didn't help any. It's very warm.
That's where we should be, though.
Yes,
for this
exactly.
time of the year. We go at least this one weekend before school starts every year, and we've been doing that for years. And I've seen it years where it's 94 degrees in the water, and it is a bath. And there's 1,000 people next to you. And it really seems like a bath. You're like, oh my goodness. So 90 feels a little bit better.
Yeah.
And it's been fluctuating 88 to about 91, as James was saying. Mm-hmm. Forecast models, obviously, they agree. You're not going to see much difference in that. Let's take you back out. Let's talk about this system closer to home. 10% chance that we get some development here next 2 days, day and a half especially. All right, 40% chance as it's moving up here along the coast. So let's focus on that one just a little bit. This is the European model. I'll take your attention somewhere right in here, potentially developing by Wednesday evening, tomorrow evening, okay? Now yesterday this was back over this way a little bit. Not by much, but it was a little bit. This is the old frontal boundary sitting up here. So let me back this up a little bit. Look at the mountains of North Carolina. They got rain yesterday. They're going to get a little bit more again tonight into tomorrow morning. and so they're getting some rain. And then the front pushes towards the coast. To me, it looks like this frontal boundary is getting to the coast in time to pick this thing up. Because yesterday the models were doing something like this, right? And now it looks like they're doing something like this because the front gets here. And in fact, if I back this up a little bit, see that rain along the coast there from Wilmington all the way down to Jacksonville, especially in the Carolinas? That is a cold front. And that will pick it up. And now, instead of it being somewhere near Myrtle Beach down to Savannah, is where the couple models had it yesterday, now the center's way out here east-southeast of Wilmington.
Well, like you mentioned before, that is the low that the National Hurricane Center is looking at right now. But what, of course, you can't see on the map is the front that comes with that. That front stretches all the way and really now the models, especially European models, has that front dropping almost into maybe Citrus County and then stretching out into the Gulf. And that's what we were talking about, a potential for next week. If that front hangs out long enough, another low possibly developing in the Gulf off of maybe even that same front. Yeah, you see kind of right now, the forecast models have that front itself actually dropping, the low developing, and it's strengthening. And what that does with that counterclockwise circulation is it would push that front, the west side of that front, it has it pushing it down into our area. And again, that's what's increasing our rain chances. But with that push down and that stretching its way out into the Gulf, yeah, that's where we could see another low possibly developing as we go into next week.
That's exactly right. So our thing here in the Gulf is this. We watch the backside of these things because we don't get fronts through here. You don't get a cold front. I mean, Atlanta got one last week.
Yeah.
That was crazy, right? But that's rare. We rarely get one at all. We're just too far to the south. But we do get the fronts coming down and they hang out over the Gulf. And you tend to watch the backside of these. And you see how this is angled from northeast to southwest? That's usually the case, okay? And so because of that, the western side tends to be the one out over the water, this end of it. And so we're kind of trained to look at that because what's happening is you got winds going this way on this side and winds going that way on that side. And so you get a bunch of storms like you see out here over the western Gulf, and they have those, it's not a lot of wind, but it's enough, and then you get something like this going. All right, and so it's easier for those things to form. And the other side of that too is this right here. Got that high pressure up there, and what is like a bridge over troubled water? Like a ridge over troubled water. Yeah. And a high pressure is a ridge. So what you're taught in school is to look underneath these high pressures, right? So that would mean down in here for tropical development. And lo and behold, what's happening? Potentially something here. Look at this high. And then lo and behold, actually, I think it'll probably be something here that goes like that.
So you're saying it's a ridge over troubled weather?
Troubled waters. Exactly right. And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So let's go back out to the model here. I jumped one ahead here. But so watch it again form east of South Carolina right there. Now this is Friday morning, 5 a.m., okay, early. But the key is now, look, most of the rain's off the east and the north side. That makes sense. That's usually how they end up getting developed over there. But watch where it goes during the day on Friday. Northeast. That is completely different. So that is doing something like this, right? Yesterday it was doing this. So the same model, right? The European model and the ensembles of this, meaning this model run 31 different times and they kind of tweak things at the beginning and weigh different aspects of the model. They are all doing this easterly one here. So big shift out there today. Anybody watching in the Carolinas, you know, we were thinking Friday and Saturday, it was like, oh, here we go, kind of Chantal-ish, you know, but I don't see that right now, not in this model. And then you see it takes off and goes out to the north and the east. It's up in here.
Right behind Dexter. Following that Gulf Stream like we're just talking about, it's going to be in that warm water. It more than likely will, you know, it'll get a name as well, possibly tropical storm, but it's going to follow right exactly behind. Because if you look at the origin where Dexter was, it was, again, right there, Wilmington, Myrtle Beach areas where the low developed and pushed its way off towards the northeast. So it looks like we got the same steering pattern with this one once we get this one developed.
So this is Friday morning early. I mean, do we, you know, what do you think, James? Do we have something named? That's all really going to depend.
Yeah.
This looks really broad to me. Like it doesn't look organized as much.
I think if you look at, I think it was the wind model I was showing earlier, it did look by maybe Monday or Tuesday. But again, it was a different model run, but it did show it same, but showed it coming out maybe northern Outer Banks and making that move. And then once it got about 100 miles off coast, so there's Dexter.
Dexter's out there on the right.
There's Dexter on the right. And it was, I think it was both.
Let's go out to, where are we at? Friday, mid-morning, Friday afternoon. So see, it's not really wrapping much wind around it. It's going to be tough to get this thing named.
Look at the European model, that same.
Is that the same? I can't do that one. Let's see if I can pop. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yep. And see that one, because that's the one where it made the shift.
And the GFS has just been out to sea, out to lunch.
And it really showed, like you said, nothing wrapped, showed very weak. There's what the European. Now there's where
Friday night.
Yep.
And then it does try and crank it. Oh, does it do it something there?
Right
there.
There.
That's exactly what Dexter just did.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Same exact thing.
Yeah, so we may get that. Erin, E-R-I-N, by the way, is the next name on the list. Let's look at, just for giggles, the GFS, because the GFS has just not been right for 10, 11 months. Something is weird with this model. It's going to get some things right, but something is just not right. So here we go. Friday morning, remember we had something there. See that little kink over Cape Hatteras? There's something right in there, and then it just doesn't have anything. I mean, it's hard to even pinpoint anything on here.
And usually the GFS is very aggressive on these systems, especially when you're out, like you said, in the Gulf Stream, and you're south of where that high wind shear is. Usually it's very aggressive on developing those models. And you can see now, look at that one for next Friday.
Yeah,
that's what it has coming off the coast of Africa.
A week and a couple days ahead. Look at this thing, right? I'll go back and put that into motion. You can see it coming across there, just north or right over the Bahamas, really, and coming through. We'll see what happens with that. So, all right, shifting gears in that direction now. Let's get out and talk about this one. This is a wave that's centered here and has come off of Africa the next 3 days, days 3 through 7. So Thursday night, Friday-ish time frame. It has a 50% chance of developing. Almost all the modeling takes it to the north. It recurves it, and that's because, remember, we started out talking about that ridge breaking down. And instead of it extending all the way over to here, it's going to be out here in the central and eastern Atlantic. So watch where the ridge is now. See the green out here, right? Well, let me draw it clockwise so you get the idea of the motion. Okay, that's the ridge. You can see the high is sitting right here. Okay. Now, I'm going to put this into motion, and look at that. I mean, now it's way back over here to the east.
Yeah, the high really doesn't move. It just weakens, which again, that is what these systems
look for. The center of the high, right, yeah.
Yes, it looks for the weak spot. It looks for enough to turn, because like you said, it's not turning into that high, but it looks for weak enough circulation to be able to make that turn. And that's where the European model and the GFS model is different. The GFS model shows that high being stronger, and again, pushed closer to Florida, which would track that right, like you said, across the Bahamas, where the European model, I mean, look how high up that thing is.
Yeah, let me put a couple spots in here so I can draw on this here. Let's back up. So here we are this Friday, okay? I'm going to go out just past that. That is 4 p.m. Saturday. Now, what you can't really see is there's something right in here. This is the one that has a 50% chance of developing towards the end of this week over the weekend, okay?
Yeah, and you see the run there, the model really doesn't have much. Really doesn't like it. Yeah,
right?
Doesn't have it.
It has this.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's something that we need to talk beyond what you see on that hurricane map, Hurricane Center map of the 3 areas that we're watching. This is something beyond that. This is what we're watching right now, okay? So watch, you will see it. See it there?
Little kink, yep.
Yep, that is it. There's your ridge. Your ridge actually drifts maybe a little further to the north, but the big thing is it's weak over here, and that allows it to curve up here.
And there's the other one that's off the coast of the Carolinas moving up as well.
Yep. There you go. That's Sunday into Monday. It's Monday night 11. There's whatever that is, that 50% chance. Is that what's left?
Yeah, that's the other one that we're looking at.
That's the one off the Carolina coast?
That could possibly be Erin, yeah.
Right, okay, so then, and that's Bermuda, by the way. So this one would go north of Bermuda, just like Dexter. It'd be very similar to Dexter. And then this one would come up weaker. The European model does have these pretty close. The GFS is a little bit further apart with those. And then you see both of them kind of go out to sea. Now, a week and what are we at? Tuesday, 2 days from now, you've got another low here. You've got one approaching Barbados. And the forecast models, the European really lowers pressure all in this area. And in fact, we were just looking at it. They've got low pressures from here all the way out to here. Something coming in, something like this. Okay? The majority are east of Florida, this area in here. So to me, knowing that this is breaking down a little bit and that the models are sniffing more of this area than they are Florida and west, that tells me that that door is open. Okay, and that's at this far, that's a week and a half. So this far out in time, that's kind of what I hold on to. Like, just what do we kind of think it might be doing? Because that's all we really know that far out. And then here we go. This is the European model. Got some stuff off the Carolinas by a week and a half. Not this Friday, but next. And then still very weak pressures out here. So good. You know, that's what we want. That's what we want to see.
And I was looking at the one that they have tagged now for that 50%, and I was looking at the Saharan dust forecast, and looks like they got 2 big plumes of dust coming off. Doesn't really have any effect on, again, the one that's off the coast of the Carolinas there, because the dust goes south, but that orange polygon area of the 50% one, it looks like 2 huge plumes of dust going through that, and that could be one of the reasons why, if it sticks to that area, that the European doesn't expect that one to strengthen up too much. Again, we've got warm waters, and actually the shear wasn't too bad, but look at that there. Now watch what happens as we go through. Again, we're looking at something maybe towards the end of the week.
So there's Saturday and Sunday. It would be somewhere right in the middle of that.
Of all that.
Of all of that.
And look at what comes off after that too. There's another big one that comes off right after that going into next week.
So this wave would be somewhere right in here, and there it is.
Yeah.
In fact, it might even be right up in here. You can see the surface winds. There it is. Actually, that is it. You see that right there?
That circulation.
That circulation right there. It's more wind on the top side than it is wrapped around on the bottom side here. But that's pulling in a lot of dry air. And that's what the Saharan dust does. It dries out the atmosphere and makes tropical systems hard to grow. So it might be trying. I think I can. But as long as that dry air is rotating into that, it's going to make it really hard. Now it can get out of that. Right, it can create its own atmosphere too, but that's going to be tough to do. And now let's go further out in time. Look where that dust ends up, right over Florida by the middle of next week. Right, so that's good for us.
Right, really help dry us out for the potential of a low developing on our southwestern side with that stalled front. But again, that shows right there that little break. That is where the European had it going way up to the north, and then you started to see that closed circulation with that. So looks like it might fight its way out of that, and then if it does, it's probably going to be just to the east of Bermuda by the time the European model was kind of liking something developing there.
Now we've had a ton of wind shear all of June, most of July, especially in the Gulf, especially in the Caribbean. The Caribbean has just been loaded up with wind shear. Not now. Look at that. That's Friday, Saturday, this upcoming weekend. There is not a lot of wind shear out there. Wind shear is one of the easiest things to blow storms apart and make it hard for them not to form. The dust, they can kind of mix in a little bit and try and still keep going. But the wind shear will shear it apart in a heartbeat, and that is not what we're seeing right now. We're not seeing a lot of it. In fact, let's go out Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You can see all over the basin now that gets a little bit more wind shear by the middle and end of next week. But still, that's a week and a half of very low wind shear.
Yeah, and you can see the circulation where that high pressure is up there.
Yeah.
And again, we're talking, you said something about the next 10 days out. It's further to the south of that, maybe like I said, heading towards Barbados or something. There is a little bit of shear there, but will it be enough with the warm water temperatures? And that is south of where all that dust is as well. So you'll have more than likely moist air, and then you have the warm waters. Is that wind shear going to be strong enough, or are we going to see something possibly pushing into the Caribbean 2 weeks out?
Hey guys, can you give us some times? Let us know what we're doing here.